In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to use a light meter for product photography and with Studio Flash. A light meter, I find it's an essential tool when it comes to product photography. And I know a lot of you guys today, or a lot of people today, say you don't need a light meter because you can see the exposure on the back of the camera, which is true. But if you're serious about getting consistent results with your photos, then you really do need a light meter. And so I'm going to show you how I would use it and also how you can really get some consistency between different shoots and with different products that you're shooting. First of all, let's go through how we use it. Today we'll be shooting this wallet, and just for this purpose I've set up one light, and this is it's just a softbox, a large softbox with flash or strobe. And normally I would set it up differently, but just for this demonstration we're just going to use one light just so we can show the different results. When it comes to using a light meter, what you guys first need to do is you're going to need to decide on the aperture and the shutter speed that you want. So when you're using strobe or flash, you're going to want to set your camera's shutter speed to just below the maximum sync speed. So a lot of cameras, that's 1/200th of a second. I know when I shoot with this camera, or these triggers, these are the cactus triggers. I know when I shoot with these that I need to set my camera for around a 1/25th of a second for it to synchronize properly. If I don't do that, then likely to get the shutter not synchronizing properly, and you can actually see a little bit of the curtain or the shutter in the picture. So first thing, set the shutter speed, then you've got to decide on the aperture. Since I'm shooting something small, I'm going to be quite close, and also since it's a product, it's going to be a product on a white background like this, I'm going to want a fairly small aperture. So I'm going to be shooting these at f/16 with a 100mm macro lens, and this particular lens is the Canon 2.8L series macro lens. Awesome lens, very sharp, and great for product photography and also portraits as well. So once you've decided on that, you're going to want to get your light meter. Now this is a Minolta 4. It's quite an old meter, and I don't need anything fancy. I just need to know what the reading is. It doesn't need to perform really any calculations for what I do. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to need to set, often you're going to need to tell your light meter what sort of a light it is. So whether it's ambient light, which is the room light around us, or if you're using strobes or flashes. So in this case my meter calls it non-chord, non-C. So chord would be, it's quite old when you connect the meter to the actual sync on your camera butt or your flash trigger, but that's pretty old, and so is this meter, so that's kind of just an old term now. So I'm going to set it to that, and then I'm going to set the time value on my flash meter to 1/120th of a second, and then after that you're going to need to set the ISO as well. In this case I'm going to be shooting at 100, so I'm going to set it to 100. So now the meter knows the time and the ISO, so it knows exactly what I'm shooting at. So when it reads the light, it's going to tell me what the actual F value of the light is. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the product roughly where I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to put the light meter right next to it, and then I'm going to press the trigger button on my camera flash trigger, and that'll fire the flash. And right now I'm getting a reading of 5.6 and 2. Now on this particular meter, 5.6 and 2 means like 2/10ths of a whole stop. So or it's almost a third of a stop. Most of the cameras are set by default in 1/3 stops. So if I know I'm shooting at f/16, I know I need quite a lot more light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up and I'm going to turn my flash up. Probably about 2 stops. Let's try 2 stops. That might be a little bit much, and we'll see what we can get. You could work it out if you're keen how many stops exactly you'd need to turn it up, but I find it's easier, just a little bit of trial and error, and once you've practiced it a few times, you'll get it pretty easily. So we're going to fire the flash. Going to fire the flash again, and this time I've got f/16 and 7/10. So 7/10, about 2/3 of a stop over what I want. So I'm going to bring the flash back down a bit, so bring the strobe back down. And we'll do it again. Now we've got f/16 and 2/10. For me, that's kind of where I like it with this particular light meter. I know my light meter pretty well, and I know how I like my exposure. I mean, exposure to some degree is a little bit personal. It's personal preference, so that's how I like my product shot. So now I know that's going to be, the exposure is going to be correct. So one thing I mentioned earlier was the why having a flash meter or a light meter is important when it comes to product photography. It's because the thing is, with product photography, often you'll need to move your lights around. You might need to move your light further away or move it closer. You might want to add a little bit of light depending on what the product is. And if you've got a mix of products, sometimes you can't just use the one lighting setup, so you need to be changing the power on your lights. And what you're going to find, if you've got a client that sells a range of products, maybe they all come, maybe they sell different bags, they sell wallets, they sell some belts, and they all come in this particular colour, this blue colour. If you're changing your light power all the time, and you're potentially just changing your exposure like just a little bit, and so that's going to result in the colour being a little bit different. So a little bit of a colour shift because the exposure is not the same, and then you'll need to manually sort of adjust those in when you do your photo editing to grade them so they're all the same colour. But if instead when you change products, you just quickly meter your light, and you make sure it's the same every time, and then you know that the exposure is exactly the same for every single product, and that way you're going to get a much more consistent result with that. So anyway guys, I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope you guys now have some idea how to use a light meter for your product photography. So if you like this video, please do subscribe and also give it a thumbs up. Thanks guys.